The film starts with a text stating that the Yautja aren't prey to anyone, nor do they have friends. Predators are solitary and deadly. On Yautja Prime, we see a motorcycle traversing these arid lands. Here, a creature is eaten by another, and finally a lizard swallows it. But it doesn't end there. This Yautja's own motorcycle kills him. This young Yautja, using his gear, manages to track down his brother. This Yautja's name is Dek. Using his heat vision, he tells his brother he knows he's there and the best thing to do is fight him face to face. The brother appears and fights him, using the environment to his advantage. Dek tries to win, but the youngster is impulsive, has a lot to learn and do, and has many flaws. He's always trying to impress his father, who considers him a disgrace. While leaping, doing parkour, and fighting, Dek does everything to defeat his brother, but his attempts are futile. His brother Quay surpasses him, fighting like a true warrior. He asks Dek if he's going to give up, but Dek doesn't, and he falls into the ravine. His brother is glad he's not a coward and wants to keep going. When he climbs back up, his brother was waiting. "Do you even know what you are?" Quay asks. Dek answers that he's a Yautja, but Quay says he isn't yet. He hasn't earned his clan's respect and must strive to do so. Sometime later, with things calmer, Dek finds an old device from a past battle. That artifact nearly took out his brother's tooth. This time, Dek protected his brother and didn't hesitate to do so, even though the Yautja code doesn't allow for weakness. His brother brings him a new plasma cannon, and we see the size difference. Quay is taller and bulkier, while Dek is small. After that, he asks him to get on, making him the pilot. For many generations, their ancestors sought the greatest prey. To prove their worth, they must bring a special creature's corpse back to their clan. Only then will they be accepted. If they fail and return empty-handed, their punishment is death. As we see different planets, we see that the greatest threat on Earth was a native woman with her bow, a clear reference to Naru from Prey. Meanwhile, on the planet Genna, also known as the Death Planet, there's been a tough-to-beat creature called the Kalisk. Even their father, Nyohar, a formidable warrior, is afraid of this creature. Dek promises this creature will be his trophy and that he'll show everyone how strong he is. But Quay knows his brother will die, so he asks him to choose another planet. When he was about to change his mind, Dek takes his hand and says he must respect his vision. He's an adult Yautja now. This is his vow, and he must honor it. Just then, hearing the arrival of the clan, Dek was happy to see his father, but Quay was not. Dek honors his father by cutting off his hand. His father, Nyohar, an older and more serious Yautja, asks his eldest son why he didn't do the job he requested. He was supposed to kill Dek, as he's the clan's disgrace. He only brings dishonor and more shame. It would have been better if he'd killed him in his sleep, so he wouldn't have felt so guilty. Quay says he has chosen the Kalisk as the creature to hunt. His father laughs and doesn't believe his son is capable of this, as he's short and weak. So, without further chatter, he must kill him today. At least if he kills him, he'll gain the honor he never achieved. His father captures Quay, who asks for one last chance, but with no other option, he has to defeat his father. Accepting his punishment, Dek closes his eyes, but despite this, Quay makes Dek climb into his ship. Father and eldest son clash, and his cowardly father uses his camouflage to cut off Quay's arm and incapacitate him. Seeing Dek, his father thinks his son was mistaken. Dek tries to grab his sword, but he also has the option to take control of the ship and save his brother. In the end, Quay is impaled, and we see Dek send the ship far away. To end his life, his father beheads him. Quay, before dying, asks Dek to fulfill his oath. The ship flies toward Genna, but the planet is cluttered with asteroids. Dek wakes up and realizes the ship is about to crash, so he tries to manage the situation. Finally, the ship crashes, and a creature nearly swallows him. He manages to put on the protective mask and falls completely, but remembering his brother, he starts screaming. Now his brother's death will be his oath. He will return home. So, when he gets out, he looks for all the weapons he still has: a bow, a spear, a shuriken, bombs, different elements, and other things. Just then, a creature lands on his ship, but disappears out of nowhere. Dek looks for it but doesn't notice a vine monster was stalking him. It takes his weapons and Dek must defend himself, cutting here and there to avoid being surrounded. He decides to escape. The vines inflict various injuries, and using his ingenuity, he manages to flee. As he turns, he realizes this planet is very dangerous. He heals his wounds and makes some crude medicine. On one of the leaves, he finds an explosive bug. But as he passes through a patch of grass, he finds pods that, with the slightest touch, activate sedating spores. Just then he hears the voice of a synthetic woman who was very charismatic. She tells him that if he helps her, she'll save him, but if not, she'll leave him there. Many Yautja have passed through here, and all have died. At that moment, a flying creature throws a rock and activates the pods. Dek refused to cooperate as Yautja work alone. The synthetic, named Thea, knew Dek was looking for the Kalisk. At that moment, the flying creature throws another rock, and Dek is infected by the spores. With no other choice, he decides to work with Thea and throws her his shuriken. She breaks free, and just as Dek was about to be swallowed, Thea rescues him and gives him an antidote. When he wakes up, Thea talks non-stop. She asks him to stand, and he realizes her body is incomplete. Dek asks her why she doesn't have legs, to which she replies that she recently had an expedition and it didn't go well. She's a synthetic biologist belonging to the Weyland-Yutani company. Dek gets fed up and drops her. She knew he was here for the Kalisk. Jenna is a dangerous planet. It's like his country. Dek asks if she really knows the Kalisk, and she says yes. This creature was the one that tore her body apart. Due to the recent impacts, Dek's technology isn't working. With no other option, Thea tells him she can be an important tool in his hunt. He just has to give her a chance. She'll be the tool that guides him to the Kalisk. Dek, without hesitation, picks her up and carries her off. But she talks and keeps talking the whole damned way. He starts asking different things, like why he's so small, why he doesn't have many muscles, how many creatures he's hunted, and the whole journey was like that. Passing by the river, eel-like creatures that spit acid surrounded them. Thea tells him these creatures are harmless, he just needs to give them some food, and they calm down. They can even be docile and loyal. To stop carrying her, Dek takes some vines and makes a backpack. Finally, Dek tells her his name and hopes she'll be a useful tool. Using some of his blood, Dek creates a flashlight. Thea likes rainy nights. When she had her full body, she was a biologist studying all the creatures on this planet. But she's been away from her base for 2 weeks, 13 hours, 43 minutes, and 7 seconds. She also confesses that if she gets lost, someone might come for her. A similar automaton named Tessa. Of the entire company, Tessa and she were similar. Mother, the ship's AI, gave her feelings, which is why they were able to perform better on this planet, knowing the creatures and everything that happened there. Tessa was a bit cold, but the times she was with her, she proved to be a good automaton. Dek said that feelings were a weakness, but everything changed when the Kalisk attacked her base. It killed several synthetics, including maybe Tessa, but she hopes they'll see each other again someday. When she turns, Dek was sleeping. Meanwhile, at the Weyland-Yutani base, Tessa returns and her body is completely destroyed. Her mission is unfinished, and she was supposed to capture a valuable specimen for the company. To learn more about the mission, Mother activates her, greets her, and tells her the company is dissatisfied with her actions. Her mission has been a failure. But Tessa asks about Thea. Mother informs her that a Yautja has her, and they don't know anything else. In a meadow, feeling hungry, Dek was looking for something to eat. Thea, knowing this world, knew this rhinoceros was one of the creatures the Kalisk devours, so the Kalisk's food will also be his. But when he touches the grass, Dek gets cut. These leaves are like glass and very lethal. The problem is that the only way to kill the rhinoceros is in these areas. Thea observes that there's a type of monkey in the trees watching them. Dek didn't want to give up and wanted to use his shuriken. The monkey chases the rhinoceros, and Dek, to capture it, looks for a way and a moment to attack it. So he climbs the trees, and Thea nearly loses her eye. With great difficulty, Dek manages to get on the creature, but he easily falls off. Seeing the monkey pass, Dek fights this ape. But what he didn't know is that this small monkey is fast and very strong. Just then, the rhinoceros reappears, and Dek, using his plasma sword, waits for the best moment to slice the creature in half. Finally, he celebrates his victory, and the monkey watches him. But at that moment, a terrestrial creature was about to devour them. Dek wanted to throw his bombs, but he couldn't. The monkey helps him, using its shell to break the creature's teeth. In retaliation, the creature tries to hunt and kill him. Dek goes to its aid, climbs a tree to avoid the glass grass, and after that, kills the creature. He stands up victorious, and the monkey is surprised to see his determination. Meanwhile, Tessa finds Dek's ship. She was with other automatons, and the vines attack them, but they manage to kill them easily. Using their weapons, they incinerate the forest. At night, Thea was happy. They're a great team. Thea's mind, the monkey's strength, and Deck's prowess make a great team. The small monkey wanted to eat Deck's meat, but Deck doesn't give it to him. Also, Thea considers this creature very adorable. To pass the time, she asks him what his favorite part of everything they've been through was, and Deck replies that it was when he sliced the creature in half using his plasma sword and its blood splattered on his face. Deck gives her some of his food, but she doesn't eat. Also, she likes sweet things. Deck tells her the food is tough, but well, with no other option, Deck gives it to the monkey. In gratitude, the monkey spits at him. Thea says maybe that's its way of showing respect, or wanting him to be part of its clan. But Deck has no clan, he belongs to no one. He's a solitary Yautja who lost his brother, and whose father killed him. Meanwhile, Thea sees the Yautja ship in the distance. She climbs aboard and finds Quay's trophy room. There were different skulls and various creatures, but we don't see them in detail, only in parts. Opening a secret compartment, she also finds his weapons, including a nitrogen bomb. Deck is happy to have secured this arsenal. The next morning, Deck lets Thea know he has to leave, but she doesn't want to leave Bot. Deck asks what she means and who Bot is. She tells him she named the monkey that, but Deck said he's a Yautja and hunts alone. But Thea says that's not true because he has her. But he says she's not alive, just a tool. Deck believes Bot can survive without them. Passing by a river and cleaning his wounds, Deck finds a fang and asks Thea if it belongs to the Kalisk. He realizes the creature drinks here, but Thea was still angry about leaving Bot. So he asks her why or how his brother died. He replies that he died protecting him. He explains that his clan cannot have weaknesses, so he will hunt the Kalisk and prove he is a strong Yautja. Thea tells him that on Earth there is a creature known as the wolf. These animals hunt, and the Alpha protects them all. Deck says perhaps wolves would make a perfect trophy and are great killers, that he'll hunt one soon. But she doesn't mean that. He should be like the wolf. He should protect those he cherishes. But Deck didn't understand her point, and said he would be the Alpha who kills the most. After carrying her and passing through different areas, the duo reaches the old Wayland Yutani base, the Kalisk's nest. Seeing the bodies, Deck asked who they were, and she says they were synthetics from her company. The Kalisk appeared one day and caused havoc everywhere. Finally, Thea finds her legs and, using a special machine, manages to heal herself. While doing so, Deck said that everything would be easier now. His shoulders wouldn't ache from carrying her anymore. She'll never forget it, and neither will he. Also, today he'll become Deck of the Yautja. He'll bring honor to his late brother and get the Kalisk's head. Then, his revenge will end. And she should be happy, as it's a great honor to witness such actions. But Thea didn't tell him the truth. Tessa will soon arrive and reveal that her main mission was always to capture the Kalisk, as this creature could benefit humans and has such great attributes. But Deck refused to be deceived. Moreover, the Kalisk was his trophy, and she was taking his honor. Also, she used him. But Thea tells him he'll never be able to defeat the Kalisk. If several of them couldn't, he certainly won't. Deck, angry, says he was using her, not the other way around. But if she did, she better leave. The Kalisk will come soon, and he'll kill it. Thea was healing, and Deck finds gas cans. He lights them, and this way, the Kalisk arrives at the location. With a single blow, the Kalisk breaks his sword and sends him flying. Deck uses a door as a shield and throws his shuriken at it. It cuts its tail, but the Kalisk heals very easily. Just as she was ready, Deck accidentally breaks Thea's legs. He's nearly swallowed, but he manages to break free. Like Quay, Thea had two options: heal herself or help Deck. In the end, she grabs a weapon and saves him. Deck buys some time and, using Thea's weapon, damages the creature. He orders her to escape while he kills the creature using the environment to his advantage. Deck beheads the Kalisk, but the creature immediately regenerates, very much like Wolverine. But when she smells him, the Kalisk doesn't kill him. On the contrary, it leaves him alive. Just then, it disappears and freezes both of them. In the end, Deck is captured. Tessa orders her to be released, but seeing who it was, she asks about Thea. Deck orders her to release her, but Tessa won't. She wants to study him and see what he's capable of. While studying him, she notices that Deck is different from other Yautja. He's smaller, and his body is also, and he has proven to be deficient. Deck insults her and tells her she's just a tool created by a third party, has no emotions, and when he tears her head off, he'll enjoy the moment. But Thea tells him his hunt can't continue, as he's now part of the company and will now live as a Weyland-Yutani specimen. Waking up, Thea is happy to see her sister. After everything that happened, they're finally together. Tessa confesses they'll use this flawed Yautja to understand his physiology and weaknesses. They also captured the Kalisk. Thea injects him with a serum and says, "This Yautja doesn't deserve to be studied." As she said, he shows weaknesses and isn't fit for the company. But still, she was going to study him, and upon securing him, she shocks him with electrical cables. As the experiments begin, Dek starts suffering, and Thea asks her sister to stop, but she won't. Even so, Thea deactivates the devices and tells her sister not to do things like that they're family. But Tessa says she has shown weakness, and the company gave her a second chance. She won't hesitate, and she tells her that when this is over, she will be eliminated and replaced by another unit. Now they got what they wanted. They have the Kalisk, a Yautja, and they can finally leave this cursed planet. Just then, more units arrive, and Tessa orders the Yautja and her sister to be taken into custody, but the latter will be eliminated. To find out their weapons and avoid getting hurt, the androids ask Dek how to use the weapons. Dek doesn't like Tessa and wants to kill her. Thea, being the only one who knows the language, will serve as the translator. Dek tells him the weapon he has in his hands is a children's toy and he must put it on his eye. The synthetic obeys and puts it there. He also tells him how to activate it, and when he does, the synthetic's head explodes. Thea scolds him, asking what kind of weapon that is, and Dek says it was a children's toy. Thea breaks free and helps Dek escape. In the end, he returns to his ship, all injured. Dek recovers and remembers everything he lost. The brother he loved with all his heart. Among Quay's belongings, Dek finds his old mask and promises that no matter what, he'll go after Thea. Now he'll use the objects he found these days. First, he looks for the glass grass and makes a chain. Then he captures several explosive bugs. He also takes the rhinoceros fang, the venom pods, the rhinoceros shell, and finally he takes an acid salamander. When he returns to the camp for Thea's legs, he discovers something important and very revealing. Bot is a Kalisk cub, and its mother has been captured. Dek spits and allows him to be part of his clan, so they leave the legs, and Thea was disconnected at the base. Meanwhile, Dek, using the salamander's acid, kills a synthetic. Now he can face them, and with the few weapons he has, he kills the synthetics with Bot's help. Meanwhile, Tessa talks to Mother and tells her they captured the Kalisk but lost the Yautja. She informs her that the Yautja had died, but his absence won't be important. Meanwhile, Dek was fighting the replicants, while Thea's legs activate the rest of her body. Despite how incapable she looks, Thea fights the replicants, while Dek releases the vines to stop his enemies. In the end, the Kalisk is taken to the ship, and when Dek looks for Thea, she saves him from being shot. Thea is happy to know he came for her. Moreover, this is what a wolf does. A wolf always takes care of its she-wolf. Showing her the rhinoceros mask, Thea calls him Dek of the Yautja, but he's not yet. It's best to hurry and escape. Bot brings several pieces of the synthetics and gives them to Thea. Dek confesses that Bot is the Kalisk's cub. They're here to save the mother. Thea realizes Dek has matured. He finally let go of that immaturity he had about hunting that creature. And now he's doing a selfless act and changing his way of thinking. And this is the first time a Yautja does something like this. Thea and Bot will go for the Kalisk, while Dek will go for his trophy. To camouflage herself, she uses the robes, while Dek waits for the rest of the replicants. They surround him, but he had planted several explosive insects, and with the acid needle, the explosive bugs are activated. But it doesn't end there. As always, Weyland-Yutani has a giant robot. This time was no exception. Tessa uses Dek's plasma cannon and tries to eliminate him, but the salamander sacrifices itself. This saddens him, and he uses the weapons he acquired to fight her. But the robot overpowered him. Meanwhile, Thea tries to open the Kalisk's container. A synthetic finds her, and she impersonates her sister, telling him he must return to his post. But recently, she had ordered him to stay there. Turning around, Bot had followed them and put on some waterproof gear. The replicant asks what to do with this creature, so Thea knocks him out and looks for a way to get the Kalisk out. While moving things, Dek hides and, taking advantage of those few seconds, stabs Tessa. Then he puts on a protector for his suit and asks her if this was her great plan. Dek tells her she'd better tell herself. The Kalisk appears and fights Tessa, but she pierces it with her saw. Dek disconnects several cables, and when Tessa tries to freeze him, Dek makes the bomb explode on the robot's arm. The Kalisk destroyed the suit, and Bot saves Dek. In the end, Tessa tries to defend herself. But the Kalisk swallows her. With the situation calmer, mother and son reunite. Despite his wounds, Dec touches his head with the creature as a sign of respect. But something bad happens here. The villain Tessa was still alive. She uses the nitrogen bomb and freezes the Kalisk from the inside. The creature then proceeds to explode. She barely manages to stand up. Bot is saddened by what happened to his mother, while Tessa says she will fulfill her mission. And just as she was about to kill him, Tessa tells Tia they're not sisters. Dec stabs Tessa and takes her plasma cannon, and the one who delivers the final blow is Bot. And so, the three unite as a clan. Sometime later, they return to Yautja Prime. His father receives him, surprised he's still alive. Dec hands him his trophy, which was Tessa's head, but he doesn't consider this head a trophy. His father asks if he came for revenge, but Dec asks for his camouflage. His father didn't care. He's a disgrace and a shame to the clan. Because of his mere existence, a formidable warrior like Quay had died, so he orders his warriors to finish off Dec. He now has new weapons and, using the crystal herbs and his spear, kills 2 guards. Dec stabs his father and shows how strong he's become. His cowardly father uses his camouflage, and to know where he is, Dec activates his ship, and with the Earth display he can find him. Using his weapons, he stabs him and cuts off his arm. Finally, he takes his net and captures him. Dec impales his father, who tells him before dying that maybe the right son lived and the weak one died. If he surrenders, he'll allow him to be part of his clan. But Dec replies that he already has a clan. Bot, who has now grown, eats Dec's father's head and accompanies them. Dec takes his father's camouflage and blade, and Tia finally tells him that he is now a Yautja. He is Dec of the Yautja. And that's not all. The story doesn't end here. Tia asks who was on that ship. Perhaps another leader? Dec tells her no. Here comes someone worse and much more dangerous than his father, his mother. And that's how this movie ends.